I think it's the main village. It's smaller than Carbondale, mostly because it doesn't have any roads.
So just a few things to go over before we get started. There is a little bit of exertion that we'll have to do on this trail. We have to climb down about 12 stories to get to Cliff Palace, and then we have to climb out the equivalent of a 12-story building to get back to the parking lot. So when you're at 7,000 feet, even though it's a pretty nice day right now, if you're not used to the elevation, that exertion can be a little harder. So we like to remind folks to bring water with you. Right, it's dry, it's high up here. You can get dehydrated a little quicker than you might think you can. So drink water, have that with you. Stay safe, stay healthy, all that. We do have
What? Try that one more time. What's some are higher? This is a lot of work. Wow,
This is the largest cliff dwelling in Mesa Verde. It's the largest cliff dwelling in North America. So, we mentioned up above, people lived here for 100 years. And looking at Cliff Palace, you can imagine it might have taken 100 years to build everything that we see here today. It's all built by hand and with stone tools. So it's a pretty remarkable feat of engineering to be able to build this out here at Mesa Verde. And it's a pretty small sliver of life in Mesa Verde. It's 100 years roughly that folks are living here. People lived permanently on Mesa Verde as farmers for about 600 years before they moved down from the Mesa tops into Cliff Palace and the 600 other cliff dwellings that we have here at Mesa Verde. So can anyone think of a reason why you would want to start living on the Mesa top and move down to Cliff Palace or make Mesa Verde your home in general? Yes?
Because maybe the overhangs are more protected.
Yeah, it's more protected down here, sure. Yeah, you're protected from what?
The elements.
From the elements, yeah. Yeah, we have some temperature extremes here, right? So we get hot days in the summer and cold days in the winter. If you were to go way back in this alcove on a hot day, it would feel pretty nice and cool in there. We also get some pretty big thunderstorms in the summer, so you're sheltered from all that rain in here. You get a lot of snow in the winter, and you don't get buried in snow when you live in an alcove. So absolutely, shelter. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we can start walking down to the other side of Cliff Palace.
All right. Yeah, and that cracks in the crack. Swallows.
Oh, remember not to touch the wall.
Tower up there. That's for grain, maybe? See it? I know.
I was showing up and I was
There's the chimney. You have a fire. That's radiating heat out. And we'll talk about Peter in a minute.
About what makes Mesa Verde a good place to call home, and we were talking about where they can find food and water and shelter. But here at the Kiva is a good place to talk about Mesa Verde and Balcony House specifically as a home and what it looked like to the people that lived here. So we had somebody point out a Kiva to us earlier, and they said, maybe it's a good place for shelter, and it's that, but it's also a pretty special part of Cliff Palace. It's a place where you might gather with your family to do your religious ceremonies, or you might gather and share your oral histories and teach your children and stuff like that. So the Kiva, it's sort of a central part of life here at Mesa Verde. A gathering place, a teaching place, a ceremonial religious place. And so with that, you can start to sort of think about, other aspects of these people's lives. And, start to picture maybe a more complete Cliff Palace itself. Like we said, there's 100 people living here. It's probably in its day a pretty active, busy, bustling place. There's farmers climbing up and down to the mesa top to go about their chores. There's kids and families doing their chores down here. These folks grow corn for grain, so they're all day long grinding their corn into grain. And the kids are around playing on the buildings down here. And they have dogs and turkeys. They have domestic turkeys as well. So there's a lot of activity. And then outside of Cliff Palace, there's 600 other cliff dwellings here at Mesa Verde. The population estimates in this area are like 10,000 to 30,000 people, right around the 1,200. So there's a lot of people living in this area. There's a lot of activity. It's alive, and it's home to these people, right? And then you can look at Cliff Palace here, and what we're seeing is maybe 70% of a complete Cliff Palace, and it doesn't look the way it used to look. I was talking to a couple folks about, you can see like pink plaster on the walls, over there. So that's remnants of original plaster. You wouldn't have seen a lot of this bare sandstone here. It would have been a much more colorful place. I've heard that they would grind mica up into their plaster, and you could have a sparkling plaster on the walls. In some of the other cliff dwellings, you can see plaster inside of the buildings. So there's decoration or symbolism in there as well. So it's very much a home. It's very much alive, in the same way that I think any of our homes today are too. And so I do like to take a minute to just try and picture the activity of 100 people living in a complete cliff palace.
Probably doing it back then.
Or for feathers. So like a down jacket, they make some feather blankets. Yeah. Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I know, I was thinking that, like, when I said you're not.
Take picture. Oh, no. You go first. Actually, I can do it. You guys go before.
And then I go here, like a sand.
Made it. Okay, this is the end of the tour of the Cliff Palace. So we'll see you later, and we're gonna go to the balcony tour now. And we're gonna separate these two videos. Bye.